On August 22, 1939, in preparation for the invasion of Poland, Hitler stated, "Who, after all, speaks today of the annihilation of the Armenians?" He gave the order in the east, but the cruelty did not stay there. It spread across borders. This is what happens when the world forgets, when the history is silenced, when the violent are emboldened. When we do not remember, we leave space for repetition. The Armenian genocide was not only a tragedy, it was a precedent and a warning. This film is not only about what happened, it is about why we must remember. I am not Armenian. No one in my country ever taught me about the Armenian story, the Armenian genocide. But when I first heard about it, not from a textbook, not in a class, but from a passing conversation, it stayed with me. I brought candles with me, not as offerings, but as invitations. For every story someone gave me, I left behind a flame. This is what they shared with me. These are the voices that remembrance protects. And to understand why remembrance matters, I needed to begin with truth, not just memory, but evidence. And so, there I began at the Armenian Genocide Museum Institute, where history is not debated, but documented. There, I met Dr. Robert Tatoyan, a researcher who studies the numbers, the testimonies, the suppressed patterns of denial.
Turkish historians always say that actual numbers of Armenians who perished as a result of the Armenian genocide are lower. They try to deny the Armenian genocide by means of diminishing the number of the Armenians killed. Ottoman government always tried to diminish Armenian population, not only by massacring, but also in official statistics. They always put lower figures on Armenians in order to show that Armenians are a minority, insignificant minority, so they don't deserve reforms. As maybe you know that Armenian question emerged in 1878 and as a question of international diplomacy, and Ottoman government was obliged to introduce reforms in Western Armenia, Ottoman Armenia, the territories inhabited by Armenians, the part of Armenian homeland. At that time it was the part of the Turkish Empire, Ottoman Empire. And eventually, finally, they organized genocide, the elimination of the Armenian population in order to eliminate the Armenian question. Other Christian minorities also they lowered, diminished the numbers of Greeks, Syrian Christian population. They eliminated not only Armenian presence in the present-day Turkey, but also Greek and Syrian presence. A lot of, and especially women and children, were kidnapped and raped, kidnapped, and some of them were taken to Turkish, Kurdish, Arab houses as sex slaves, as servants, as third or fourth wives. some of them, after genocide, after that defeat of the Ottoman Empire in First World War, returned to their Armenian families. But a lot of them couldn't find any relative because all their relatives were massacred, killed. Diplomatic documents from different archives, from British, United States, German, Austro-Hungarian, Russian archives. All these states had presence in Ottoman Empire. They had a net of diplomatic chapters. They documented the condition of Armenians, repressions against Armenians. Especially are important for the point of view studying of genocide, the documents related to German and Austro-Hungarian archives, because they were during First World War, they were allies of the Ottoman Empire, so they were not interested in distorting truth, so they didn't need to give false information and to report about crimes. They never need to invent crimes. Some considered themselves as disgraced, they ashamed, they didn't want to return to their Armenian environment. But they deny, they closed borders, they helped Azerbaijan to ethnically cleanse Nagorno-Karabakh, Armenian population of Nagorno-Karabakh. Result of 2020 war, they helped Azerbaijan, they allied, gave them weapons, and so that's part of their policy toward Armenia. They try to weaken Armenia as much as possible, and this they don't want to establish peace in this with Armenia. That's a problem, and this is actual problem of the present day for Armenia. Actually, they had some organizers of genocide. They tried in court, but at court sentenced them to death in absentia. But new government of Turkey never implemented these death sentences. Talat, Minister of Interior of Turkey, of Ottoman Turkey, who was the main organizer of the Armenian genocide. But now Talat is venerated in Turkey. Actually was the figure who destroyed Ottoman Empire, but they venerate him because he has organized Armenian genocide, only for that. One of our global aims to prevent future crimes against humanity, to prevent future genocides by giving information about the Armenian genocide. One of way of preventing future crimes, you should give education about crimes, should name crime as it is. I think that Armenian genocide deserves to be studied.
Long after the killing ends, genocide survives not in ink, but in breath between generations. It flickers in the grief of young voices, those born decades too late, yet burdened by memory. And in every candle lit, we choose to remember what the world tries to forget.
I would like them to first recognize the genocide that happened in 1915. Dances are beautiful, the people are beautiful, the food's very nice. One of my favorite is sarma. It's grape leaves with meat and rice inside. The wine is one of the best in the world. There's also brandy, but they call it cognac. Stalin used to send Winston Churchill in the UK, boxes of brandy from Armenia to get him to befriend him. And he was successful, so because the Armenians are very good at brandy and winery and stuff, we were able to befriend multiple countries. First, I'm not born here, but when I found out about it, I was 3 years old in Canada. So when I found out, we used to go to protest to defend the Armenian genocide because not many countries recognized the Armenian genocide. 1.5 million Armenians were killed in Western Armenia, Anatolia, and only 35 countries or something recognized that it happened. Turkey and Azerbaijan, they're denying it if they recognize that it happened, they're gonna have to pay reparations, they're gonna have to treat us the best that they can, or else they will have consequences. To them, I would probably tell them not to trust the Turks, but to the entirety of the Armenian generations to come, I would say, we will never forget. And there's also an Armenian saying, it's fight for the freedom of your country and its people. I think it was Mahgam Azaduchun, death or freedom. Every year there's ceremonies right here, and they burn Turkish and Azerbaijani flags, and there's something called the torch march. So thousands of people, about 1,500 people, have torches, they light it, and they walk from here to some place called Jiten Nagapert, which is the genocide memorial. So they walk from here until there. It's about 2-3 hour walk, but it is not even close to the distance that our ancestors had to walk. They had to walk from the tip of Turkey, like Van, all the way to Syria, and then they were executed there. And a few of my ancestors were executed, but then my ancestors left, went to Lebanon and Greece. They were forced to, they were exiled, and half of them or more were killed. Everyone cares what's happening in Russia. They care about all the corruption going on in Russia, but no one cares what's going on here, even though it's a lot worse here. Yeah, there's no profit for helping us. They only do it for their profit. And I say I'm from Armenia, they're like, where is that? And this isn't the first time that Armenians have been killed. Adana, other places in Anatolia, 80,000, 150,000, even Greeks. So Armenians, Greeks, and Assyrians, they've always been persecuted by the Turkish, and nobody speaks out about it. Turkey never recognizes the Armenian. They deny that it happened. I talked to some people, and they say that the genocide never happened, but we deserved it.
We're always ready for peace. We're ready to be peaceful with Turkey and Azerbaijan as long as they recognize and basically do something, and treat us right. Because peace is always good, but we can't just ignore what's happened in the past. It's just the problem of recognition. It's just the problem of saying sorry, and it's all gone. Just accepting the mistakes of your ancestors and stuff. It's not going to affect them in any way now. Neither economically or socially. It will be even better because more people go in there, obviously it benefits them economically. So I don't see a reason why they wouldn't accept the genocide. I just don't understand. It's just a problem of pride. They're too proud of themselves. We're just gonna believe through it. We're just gonna fight for the truth. And we've been prosecuted by everyone. And we're still standing strong, and we will stand strong. That's just all I have to say.
Park Հայաստանին Աստված մեր հետ է, մենք կուժեղանանք. Glory to Armenia. God is with us. We will prevail.
Home is where history lingers, in every street, every face, and every memory passed down through generations. For this man, Armenia was not just a place on the map. It was the home of his ancestors, a history carried in his blood, and a memory he could never forget.
Guys, I would say number one is the hospitality of the Armenian nation. It's definitely like that. Because myself, I lived abroad for a long time, and once I return and I compare Armenian culture to the one abroad, I see that people are here strongly family-oriented. That's a number one difference. And they are very hospitable. So I would say they like to get new guests, entertain them, show them the country. Country has a very big history, as you know, since more than 2,000 years. So yeah, so this is it. And the second thing I would say is the cuisine, definitely the food, which is perfectly different from different other countries. I was born here, then I moved to Germany, and I lived very long in Germany. So recently I returned here. We learn it at school, definitely, from being, I don't know, maybe, well, not the first grade, definitely, but at least third, second, fourth, I mean, at least 10 years. So when I was at school, the school was 10 years, now it's 12 years. We definitely learned it at school, also in the university. When I heard firstly about it, I felt very dramatic, so I felt very sad about it, that there was such a devastating event in the course of history. More than 1.5 million Armenians, innocent people, were killed and massacred by Turkey. And unfortunately, the Turkish government isn't ready yet to accept it as a historical truth. They try to conceal it as much as they can. So it would be very appreciated if the world would attach their importance to this historical dramatic event such that it never happens again and everyone speaks about the truth. Armenia is very small and the population is also very small, so it's very sad that 1.5 million is a huge loss for us, a huge loss. And that's why it would be very appreciated if the historical truth at least is spoken and officially recognized by as many countries as it's possible. Then the countries would force Turkey also to recognize and pay for their crime, you know.
In the silence of erased histories, the flicker of candles becomes a beacon of truth. Through these flames, we remember not just the genocide, but the deep roots of civilization that Armenia represents. A history too vast to be silenced.
If we go back through our human civilization, let's say many thousand years ago, so the people have forgotten where we come from. So the land of Armenia, actually, the DNA, if we go back, so it is one of the ancient people. So the history book mentions only about, let's say, recent couple years, 1,000 years, but it's far beyond 12 years ago, 12,000 years ago, actually, when Armenia was a huge land, and it was current modern Turkey is in Armenian highland. So currently there is a huge, expedition is happening around the Lake of Van, which was Armenian lake. And after they're done, the history of civilization, the birthplace of civilization, many things are gonna change, because basically that is the oldest historical evidence that they're right now are exploring and they're finding around the Lake Van area. So it is not about the location right now of Armenia or history. People used to say first country who adopted Christianity, but it's far beyond that. But one of the first civilization on the earth. Sumerian, we used to know that Sumerian civilization was the first, right? There is a huge connection. So again, it's possible that Armenians were Sumerians. It's very small, and the first question should come across is how come Armenia still survives? How come? There should be a bigger reason beyond that, right? Because they cannot destroy. It's first civilization on the earth. And right now, the politics and diplomacy, like nobody mentions about Lake Van as an ancient Armenian highland or place, but they mention in Turkey, which is again another propaganda. People's memory is very short. They don't want to go far beyond, explore and discover, okay, what was this area, who belongs this place before Turkey conquered in 11th century, let's say. When the earth was created, like human body, we have 7 endocrine systems, right? 7 chakras, 7 energy points. The globe, the entire earth has 7 points as well. So according to highly spiritual people, the pineal gland of the earth is where Armenia and the Göbekli Tepe, which is currently in modern Turkey, and it was again Armenian highland, and the real name is Portasar, Port, which is the solar plexus, and Sar is mountain. So that's the location where the pineal gland is. So everything, like our body, everything is governs and controls. Well, we do everything. Our awakening is based on pineal gland. So that's where the pineal gland of the earth is located. So that's how far Armenia is.
In the silence of historical erasure, the voices of the past are not gone. They ignite the flames of civilization, calling us back to the roots of Armenia. the silence of erased histories, the past whispers, its truth awaiting to be told. The Armenian genocide is not just a dark chapter in history, it is a call to action, a plea for remembrance, and a demand for recognition. The stories shared in these interviews are not just personal, they are universal. They remind us that our understanding of history shapes the world we live in today. What I can do with my limited power is to carry these voices forward and share them with others. And that is the purpose of this documentary, to amplify the stories of those who lived through the unimaginable, to keep the flames of their civilization burning bright, and to ensure that their legacy is never forgotten. In the quiet stillness of history's silence, every candle we light becomes testament to truth, a flame that refuses to fade into the darkness. When Hitler asked who, after all, speaks today of annihilation of the Armenians, he unknowingly called for the erasure of an entire people's history. But we do speak, and we will continue to speak, for as long as it takes to ensure that the truth is never silenced again.